of you might know this story. I'm 65 years old. It was just 10 years ago when I literally had a calling to come back and do this privileged work that we call coaching. And I had been in the executive world for 15 years. I did have my own business from age 30 to 40. And at 55, I had a calling to really do this work. And I remember distinctly reflecting on that calling. And actually, it gives me chills today every time I think about it, that it was very clear, even though I had been successful in my family and my business world, I felt like there was still more that I could do. And I realized what was holding me back. What was holding me back, everybody, was that I had conditioned my brain really honestly to believe that my life's journey was about me. And when I realized at 55, and it took me a long time to realize it, that my life's journey was not in fact about me, that I was put on the earth not for me. I was put on the earth to touch the hearts and the minds and souls of other people. And when I realized that, and I embraced it, and I internalized it, and I lived it, and I role modeled it in my family, in my business, in my life, let me tell you what, it's been an incredible journey the last 10 years. I remember waking up the next day and I started writing books. I got up at 3:30 in the morning, and my energy could not be contained. And I would say still today at 65, I'm still as passionate, perhaps even more passionate about this work that we do than even 10 years ago. It is an incredible privilege. I will tell you that intelligent leadership, what is it? Intelligent leadership has evolved in terms of a philosophy and a process and tools that I've had the privilege of teaching, not only to some of the top CEOs in the world, but also right now through our opportunities, our franchise opportunities in the United States, and also our licensing opportunities where we have a chance to teach coaches, what is intelligent leadership and the impact that it can make in the world. And I will share with you that the cornerstone of intelligent leadership is the following, is that the inner core, our soul, literally determines our success as people. So greatness in the outer core comes from greatness on the inner core. And if you look at the inner core obviously is very, very complicated, but it includes things like self-concept. So how strong an individual's self-concept is. Is it balanced? What about the strength, vibrancy, maturity of their thinking patterns and their emotional makeup? And are they living the right values as they execute their daily lives? It's interesting, everybody, that I've learned there's an algorithm with this. And once we can help people see the strength of that algorithm, we can help them adjust and make adjustments that are very, very critical for them to become the best that they can be. So literally, our thoughts control our emotions control our behavior controls our results. And if you look back on successes or failures, you can literally look back and look at that algorithm and learn a lot about what you could have done differently in terms of your thinking patterns. So I think the first thing I'd like to share with everybody here is that, intelligent leadership has evolved. I wrote a book in 1996. It was during my first 10 years having my own business from age 30 to 40. It was called Success Yourself. That book ended up being a massive failure. It was such a failure that I couldn't wait to go back into the business world. And I just kind of put the book away, and that was it. This was 1996, everybody. The book called Success Yourself. 2010, you just never know, right? 2010, a gentleman by the name of Steve Jobs picked up that book in Cupertino, California, about a year before he passed away. Steve Jobs was doing a lot of soul searching as he was dying from pancreatic cancer. And he looked in the bookshelf and he pulled out that book and he read it and he liked the book. That led to me having the opportunity to spend a little bit of time with Steve Jobs in 2010, about a year before he died. Let me tell you what, that whole situation was pivotal in the growth of me as a person and a leader and as a coach. I wrote that book when really I didn't understand a lot. And as I evolved as a person and as a coach, I rewrote that book in 2013 into a book that became a bestseller called Intelligent Leadership, and Intelligent Leadership was born. I wrote another bestseller in 2019 called The Intelligent Leader. So this whole philosophy and process and tools and intellectual property has evolved significantly over the years. But the cornerstone of what I believe we need to bring to leaders and future leaders that we're all called to do as coaches is to help our clients explore their souls. And intelligent leadership provides the opportunity to provide a lens into the inner core of the soul, if you will, of a leader or future leader, to really help them see that deep within their inner core, there are massive gifts and strengths. And many of those gifts and strengths, in fact, are hiding. And if we can help a leader identify those gifts and then help them pull those gifts out so that they can translate into behaviors that impact the world in a positive way, let me tell you what, that's the transformative work that really makes a difference. And I've been privileged to be able to learn how to do that. And now we obviously teach that to our coaches. So again, self-concept, emotions, the inner core drives the outer core. The second aspect that I want you to be aware of is that we tend to be very measurement oriented. You know, there's a saying in medicine, we've all heard it, right? Prescription before diagnosis is malpractice. Well, what I've learned is that is not only true in medicine, but it is also true in the world of coaching. And we have an obligation, if we're going to partner with our clients, around creating a prescription that unleashes them, that unleashes their gifts and strengths, so that that individual truly can break through to become the best that they can be. We've got to be very, very accurate in our diagnostic work. And there lies another differentiator, I believe, of intelligent leadership, that we've got the tools. And I've created a few tools, actually, that are inner core oriented, that enable our clients in partnership with them to really see very accurately, hey, here are the gifts and strengths that I've got. I'm going to commit to making these gifts and strengths even stronger tomorrow than they are today. Here are the things that are holding me back. And then we partner on that prescription. I believe that's been a differentiator as we've looked at the evolution, if you will, of intelligent leadership over the last 10 years. And then you all know as coaches, guess what? You're only as good as the results that you generate. And I get calls every single day from top coaches all over the world, coaches who just want to start out, and they say, John, how have you done this in the last 10 years? It's unbelievable. And of course, I'm very humbled to accept these phone calls, and I'm very humbled to help. Listen, I believe that we've got to generate results. We got to be able to prove. We got to prove that the work that we've done as a coach has in fact moved the needle, right? That's critical. And if you look back on the inflection points of John Mattone Global, John Mattone over the last 10 years, I can point to a number of tremendous breakthroughs and opportunities with world-class clients that happened because we were able to show, right, that the work that we do does impact the world. And it's all about creating abundance, right? Listen, we all got to come together as coaches, right? All of us. We got to lock arms because I believe we are the answer to closing the leadership gap issue in the world. We've got to come together. And I just believe the philosophy of intelligent leadership and the process and the tools, very humbly said, is our opportunity to change the world, one leader, one organization at a time, one family at a time, one nation at a time, and one world at a time. And again, inner core drives outer core. helping a leader go deep into their soul, not too deep. We can never go too deep. That's the scary part about being an executive coach. Those of you in leadership coaching understand. Listen, you can't go too far, but if you can help a leader explore the terrain of their soul a little bit objectively, let me tell you what, it can be truly transformative for them. Number 2, prescription before diagnosis is malpractice. And then number 3, we got to be results oriented. So listen, that is what intelligent leadership is. Why is it important? Well, here's what I would like to say. Obviously, the pandemic has been a challenge for all of us globally. The pandemic has reinforced that the pillars of intelligent leadership are more important today than ever. As we look at equipping people, leaders, family leaders, organizations to be able to not only survive, but to endure, it's about creating masterpieces. And I really believe the work that we coaches is about helping create, in partnership with our clients, masterpieces. Every human being in the world, all of us, have been put on the earth to create a masterpiece. And as coaches, what a privilege it is to help our clients paint that masterpiece and ultimately leave that masterpiece as part of their legacies. We're not going to achieve that, though, unless we help our clients think differently and think big. And I think the pandemic has really constrained a lot of people. It's created a lot of anxiety, a lot of fear. Am I correct about that? So what we've got to do is we've got to equip our leaders and our future leaders, the massive young talent that exists in the world, with the tools that enable them to get out of their comfort zones, to seize opportunities, to create new opportunities and new comfort zones that offers the prospect of more abundance and more pleasure. And there's ways to do that we teach in intelligent leadership, thinking differently, thinking big. It's about mindset, right? The mindset precedes action. It precedes results. We got to make sure the mindset is correct. We got to get people to think differently and think big. Number 2, we got to help our leaders be vulnerable. That is the igniter to growth in a human being. If you're not vulnerable, if your ego's out of control, and by the way, as a coach, I believe it's even most important to be very, very humble. Yes, you've got to believe in yourself. Yes, you've got to have conviction. But the greatest coaches in the world, in my mind, are humble because you've got to role model vulnerability. There's no way that you can break through to become even better unless you're vulnerable. You accept that decision. It's a decision that you make or don't make. We can help our leaders and future leaders make that decision to be vulnerable. Number 3, I believe it's very, very important that we help our leaders discover the massive differentiators that they've got, the strengths that are really their differentiators. Help our leaders embrace their gifts and strengths. Never take the gifts and strengths for granted, but to commit every single day to making those gifts even stronger tomorrow than they are today. That's our job as coaches. We've got to embrace that job. Gifts that need to be leveraged. Also helping our clients obviously attack those gaps, those weaknesses that are getting in the way or potentially could get in the way. Number 4, we've got to help our leaders be courageous. Courageous in execution, to execute with passion, with pride, with precision. More important today than ever. I believe we've got to teach leaders through intelligent leadership to be vigilant, to keep their eyes open, to recognize, to be tuned in to situations and people so that they have the ability ultimately to course correct. And ultimately, my fellow coaches, is this whole notion of we've got to teach people to go forward every day with a mindset of privilege. We've got a lot of egos out there. Ego is absolutely going to get in the way from us closing that leadership gap. We've got to have a privileged mindset. And what a privilege, an absolute privilege it is to be on this earth. It's a privilege to be able to fight through challenges and surround ourselves with great people and surround ourselves with support. And ultimately, we grow and we evolve as human beings so that ultimately, we leave the world a better place. And it's not about us, leadership and our personal journeys are literally about others. And it is a privilege to be able to be on this journey as coaches to help our clients understand that mindset, embrace it, and execute it. It's been an absolute, I wish I could spend more time with all of you. It's been an incredible privilege to be able to spend a few minutes with you. And I want to thank all of you for listening to me. I want you to know this opportunity, you've touched my heart, my mind, and my soul. And I hope that I've done the same for you. Thank you all so much. Keep up the great work that you're doing. And I hope to see you soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, John. That was such a impactful and great address. And again, I think at this time in the morning and working with you, I know that I think you mentioned that you're as passionate as you were when you started this. In fact, you brought in Steve Jobs, and I know that story, but I think as you were, telling that story, what I really remembered, in fact, Steve Jobs was in news these days because I think this was his 10 years death anniversary. And he said something that you can only connect dots looking backwards. And you mentioned that you wrote that book, Success Yourself, in 1996. And as you mentioned, nothing happened, but then Steve Jobs picked it up in 2010, right before his death. And then even before that, you have that calling. So I think it makes a lot of sense. And I mean, I can personally say I'm not a coach, but that has been, I think, a major roadblock for a lot of people, including coaches, is I think we of course cannot connect dots with what we are doing. But as you mentioned, if we do certain things, then I guess after a period of time, those dots would connect, and you would look back, and you should be able to make sense out of it. That was a great story. It definitely has made an impact on me, John.
Thank you, Venus. Thank you so much. Listen, I'm with you 100% about that. That, we think that we see the future. In fact, we don't. But it takes courage to act on the world. And I think if we do act on the world, and we are reflective, and we're mindful, and we're surrounded by people who can help us kind of connect those dots as well, we can gain more clarity, So yes, thank you.
And I have a few questions. I think we have some time, but I have a question which I would take from the audience. Thank you so much, Balaji. Thanks for the feedback. Balaji's question, I think you have spoken about, and actually we had Dr. Mike in the morning, the CEO of ILCI Global. Balaji's question is, does culture plays a role in leadership development?
Yes, there's no question that culture comes from a multitude of things, Venus. It's a great question. I look at culture as a leading indicator for success. Just like the economy, there's certain leading and lagging indicators. And the culture, if culture's strong, mature, and vibrant, that's going to yield the potentiality, right, for operating success. And there's been numerous studies to support that. But so is leadership, and so is talent. In fact, those are the three leading indicators. If you get those right in any organization in the world, you mitigate risk. That's how you achieve operating success. The interesting thing about culture is that many companies make the mistake. First of all, we don't have enough companies measuring culture. You know what? They measure engagement. Engagement and culture are different, which is interesting in itself. But the other thing about culture is, a lot of companies will go out there and they try to copy, the Zapposes of the world and the Disneys of the world. That's the biggest mistake in the world. The culture that you've got to install has got to support your operating success. And if it doesn't, guess what? You're going to lose that leading indicator information. Great question.
Yes, absolutely. As Peter Drucker says, culture eats strategy for breakfast. And I think, as you mentioned, a coach's responsibility is to somewhere impact the leader, and then eventually have that impact on the culture of the company, which can change the course.
Absolutely.
I have a question, John, and I think my question is going to be towards, since we are our people who have joined us today is our coaching community, and you and I, we have discussed this before. And we have gone through that journey. You have seen the coaching, leadership coaching market in the US, which now I would say is the most mature coaching market anywhere in the world. And then when we talk about this part of the world, I'm talking Asia Pacific, the Middle East, even Europe. Culturally, we are very different, and the way we perceive things. And I have personally spoken to hundreds of people you have trained, so I know you actually have an understanding of this part of the region. What would be your, let's say, messaging around that differentiation, and how coaches who are building their practice, who really want to kind of, build themselves as great coaches, train great leadership, how would you sort of, just differentiate between these two, let's say, regions and markets we have? And what should sort of, upcoming or established coaches be building that practice? Because you have seen that journey in a market like US.
It's a wonderful question. Here's what I would say about the US coaching market. Venus, you're 100% correct. I would say of all the regions in the world, the United States, Canadian market is the most mature. So coaches in the United States, because of that mature market, actually struggle in many respects to differentiate themselves. I consider very fortunate that my brand and our brand was differentiated at the right point, because we sort of stick out. It's not like we win every deal or I win every single CEO coaching deal, because I don't.
Yeah.
However, we're differentiated. Now, I look at the market of Asia Pacific and obviously the Middle East. I would say this, that if you're listening in right now, you are definitely in a very significant, I would say the next 10, 15, 20 years, Venus, if you're a coach, let's say in India, you've got an incredible opportunity in front of you to change the world, to help people, to help leaders. I realize that there are a lot of coaches and there's a lot of certifications out there too.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
And I love all these certifications. Listen, the certifications definitely hold true to your heart. That's going to differentiate you. But it's not the only thing. You've got to have a differentiated philosophy, process, and tools. And that's why, Venus, to be quite honest with you, intelligent leadership has resonated. And you know this, right? The last few years, the coaches that we've worked with get very, very excited about the opportunity to learn, from us, because it helps them differentiate so they can win business. So the markets are different. I would say this, that you've got a great opportunity here. The future's very, very bright with this condition. You must differentiate yourself. And the certifications is one thing, but you got to go further. You've got to have the philosophy, you got to have the process, and you got to have the tools. That's what I would say.
Thank you so much, John. And I think the ILCI, Pooja, I know I need to wrap up, so I am doing that. So I think what you have built for on your own, plus the way you have sort of you shared that through your programs earlier, and now with licensing program in North America, because we are working with you for the development of ILCI coaching community outside North America. And again, we are very privileged and excited. I think what you're doing is great work. And we have more questions, but I would request people, I would leave my email address there, reach out to us, and we can connect. And John, thank you so much for doing this. I know you're very busy, but I'm glad that you could join us today. And any question we would have, we will pass that on to you, John. Thank you so much.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much, Venus. A privilege. And Pooja, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, John. I'm going to thank both of you because it's been an incredible session, and I'm sure everybody in the audience is taking home something that they can build upon. So I'm going to thank you all once again for taking time out, joining us for this session. It's time for us to move into the next session. Speakers, you all are welcome to. Ladies and gentlemen, my audience, you all will automatically be diverted to the next session, which is a very interesting fireside chat. So we're going to do that. I'm going to sign off from here. Thank you and bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.